All right, welcome to Wednesday Word, Wednesday Word. Hope you can see me, hear me, all those good things. And we have Evangelist Hill with us. Evangelist Carmilla Hill is with us. God bless you.
Bless you.
All
Bless you,
right, I
sir.
know you just getting in from running the streets, and glad you made it to.
Wait a minute. Sister, I'm working. Since I
Got
have
you.
not, a whole lot of money and I don't have a husband to take care of me, so I gotta work.
Okay. All right, so little we gonna talk a little bit about those husband and wife roles. So we can
Right.
take some notes on that because as we dive into some of this,
Hmm.
I'll speak, from a marriage perspective and some of the stuff that we're talking about.
Hmm.
Um, you could talk to us from some of the single relationship perspective and stuff like that too, so we can balance it all out.
Hmm.
Um, so welcome to Wednesday Word, everyone. Let's see. I know Alexa's trying to get back on. She got booted off. She's trying to get back on. Look, I need the light right here. I can't move it, but I'm trying to see the chat. There we go. So I could bring on some of the stuff. So, all right, there we go. Praise the Lord, Sister Serena. Glad to have you on. Um, Minister Regina, good to see you. God bless you. Let me see, is that the hang loose sign? I think that's what she gave. You know what? This is when I really feel old. I told my wife, I said, this is like hieroglyphics. The emojis. I was like, I don't know what half the stuff mean. People use
Right.
emojis. They throw this and throw
Right.
that in, and I feel like I am 99 years old. Like I don't know what y'all doing. Evangelist Dixon, praise and God bless you. Good to see you. Evangelist Tobin, God bless you. Glad to have you.
Are we
Um,
streaming on YouTube? I don't see YouTube.
what? We should be. Everything looks like it's.
I don't know.
Let me
Maybe.
double check. Yeah, it
Let me
says
check
streaming. You on Ebenezer's YouTube?
There we go.
Let me see. Do we
There you
have
go. I'm
anybody
streaming.
from YouTube?
Yeah, I refreshed.
Oh yeah, Minister Tobin's on YouTube.
Yep, I
And
got it.
Regina. Okay, yeah. All right, you giving me gray hairs.
Keep on your toes, making sure you know
All
you
right, I
still got
got
it
it.
together.
Yeah, we got it one way or another. We're gonna make it.
Right.
So last week we talked about healing family and marriage wounds. We were looking at Colossians 3 and 12, Proverbs 15 and 1. We're looking at our series, Fix the Relationship, as we're talking about real family and marriage wounds. Because these are places that should feel safest, but they often cut us the deepest.
Yeah.
And we look at having forgiving hearts to be able to forgive one another. A soft answer turns away wrath, but harsh words stir up anger. So God does not heal families by ignoring the wounds. He
Mm-hmm.
heals them by teaching us how to speak, how to forgive, and how to love differently. And that's what we have to learn, how to speak, how to forgive, and how to love differently. We touched on unspoken expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably a big thing for a lot of us,
Mm-hmm.
I think about, at times, a lot of times my wife is like, okay, I'll fix breakfast and everything and get it ready for Blake. And, she might at times wonder, how come you aren't saying I'm a fix breakfast? But I'm thinking you said you got it. So you got it. So as far as I know, there's been no problems with that. Look, plus I think he likes hers a little better than mine because she's going to do a little more than I'm going to do, I don't like avocado, but she'll make avocado toast and all that stuff. And I'm like, here's a bowl of cereal, kid. No, no, I'm joking on that. But I ended last week with unconditional love does not mean unconditional access. And I say that in dealing with friendship, with family, marriage is a little different. And I'm saying a little because I do want to make clear to everyone out there, when it comes to marriage, as much as I will push for it to stay together, as much as I put out in scripture, God is, Moses instituted divorce, not God. Moses instituted divorce because of the hardness of their hearts and so forth, and not putting away their women, but basically knew the woman's stuck. You don't have a choice. You don't have no rights here. You can't make it on your own without me. All this other stuff. But basically, looking at the culture of the time, like today, women are a lot different. They're like, no, I'm out. I'm good. Got my own job. I don't need a man. I can do bad all by myself. But I do want to make clear. No, so here's the serious part. I do want to make clear that as we talk about unconditional love, we talk about sticking it out, we talk about working through it and all that. If you're in an abusive relationship, I am never going to tell you to stay in that spot. You need to be in a safe place.
Mhm.
Now, on the flip side, I've known somebody that has used reasons to get divorces so they can remarry. They almost treated marriage like dating, you know, and they
Mhm.
had 5, 6, 7. If
Mhm.
you're married 7 or 8, you need to stop and learn some lessons because
Yeah,
something's not happening right.
absolutely. Yeah, I
But
agree.
in the serious aspect,
Mhm.
you can't take, you know, um, hey, how come you didn't eat the breakfast I fixed? And you say, well, I didn't like the way the eggs tasted, and then now you say,
Mhm.
well, that person is being verbally mean, verbally abusive, and all that kind. You can't
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
use it for anything. But we
Mhm.
do know physical abuse, without a doubt. Someone putting their hands on you aggressively, punching, hitting, choking, all those kind of things. And I
Mhm.
will say to women, you have to also be careful. You don't have the right to punch on a man
Right. That's
either.
right. That's
Uh,
right.
but I do want to
Mhm.
just clear up some of that about abuse. And, usually verbal abuse, we're looking at someone trying to degrade, to tear you down, and um, abuse you verbally in a number of ways with,
Mhm.
profanity, language, so forth, self-esteem. I mean, we could really draw into that. And if you're fearful about that or concerned about that, you need to seek help and get some clarity to see where you are,
Mhm.
what needs to happen. Because we want you in a safe space. We do. We want you in a safe space. I've seen physical abuse. I've seen verbal abuse, and we don't
Mhm.
want anyone in that area.
Mhm.
All right. So, in putting that point in there for clarity, I do want to jump into unconditional love does not mean unconditional access. Evangelist Hill, before I kind of throw the ball in your court, I want to bring up our scripture in Romans chapter 8 and 28. Um,
Mhm.
I gotta make my shortcuts are no longer where I had them, so I will get that. I got a couple of them, but here we go. Romans. Oh, that's it. No, I'm sorry. Romans 5 and 8. That's what I want. Romans 5 and 8. Oh, I gotta get rid of you too. Oh, Evangelist Neil, you on? I mean, I see her on. You can help me, Evangelist Neil, with some of this. All right, so Romans 5 and 8. God demonstrates His own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So if we look at the unconditional part, we were sinners, we didn't deserve it, but He does it because it wasn't based upon excuse me, our condition. So while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Um, so I want to look at, when we look at Christ loved unconditionally, but He did not entrust Himself to everyone. Christ died unconditionally, but He did not entrust Himself to everyone. And what I'm going to briefly look at with that is John chapter 2 and 24. But Jesus would not entrust Himself to them, for He knew all people. So when we take a look at those two scriptures, He died unconditionally, but He did not commit Himself. He did not entrust Himself to them because He knew all men. So Jesus's knowledge of the people's heart led Him to remain distant from them in John that we just read. Um, he acted with caution around them because He knew their faith was not reliable. It was based on the excitement of them seeing miracles, and it did not represent a true change in their heart. So He was cautious. So wisdom will begin to teach us you can love deeply without enabling dysfunction. And I'm gonna bring Evangelist Hill and sisters. We talking about dysfunction and everything. So, so now when we look at this, and this is what I kind of want to stress to people, that we can have unconditional love, we can have love, we can do deeply, but we don't have to enable dysfunction.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
unconditional love, is about our commitment to our Christ-like character, our faithfulness to our role. But it's not accepting repeat harm. It's not
Mhm.
ignoring patterns. It's not,
Mhm.
losing your voice.
Mhm.
So, can you speak to us a little bit about how we can, be loving, but also cautious when we look at possibly some dysfunction?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it seems like sometimes we get used to some things, and so we don't realize that some things are dysfunctional because we're so used to it, it becomes normal. So we have to be careful on what we assume. It's just what it is. It is what it is. I am what I am. Those kinds of things. But it really could be some challenges in that relationship, in that connection within a person, etc. So dysfunction is, it's really defined. And when you think about dysfunctional love, you think about it from a standpoint of cycles or repeated patterns of unhealthy behaviors. Unhealthy behaviors between the parties, the persons that are involved there. There's an experience of, maybe intense pain and things like that, rather than joy or happiness. Maybe there's a sense of control involved. Certainly poor communication, ineffective communication, and then also a lot of times emotional insecurity. And that's where it becomes challenging because a person may feel insecure. And so therefore they want to gravitate to this person, try to control the situation, try to control what this person does, how they feel, how they think, how they move, how they operate, because there's some insecurities there. But that's all dysfunction. It's dysfunction. And sometimes the dysfunction may show up in a sense of power imbalance. There may be times where a person feels like they're the dominant one, and they should be. And someone else may feel like, well, I'm the dominant one and I should be, so there's that imbalance of power, if you will. Sometimes people walk on eggshells. You can think about people who say, well, I have to be sensitive and careful about what I say and what I do because, there could be repercussions and a fallout, things like that. So those are signs of things of like abuse, potentially, when you get into those things. Some other signs of dysfunctional love could be constant chaos. We're used to some things being kind of out of order and to some degree, and we're okay with it. It's like organized chaos, as people may say. But the reality is, when you have constant chaos, that's a problem. You really shouldn't have to live like that, where it's constant chaos. Drama, people, we say drama kings and drama queens and all these kinds of things. That's a problem. Again, constant chaos.
It
A
sounds
lot of
like
times,
you're gonna break up some relationship.
well, just saying. I was kidding. But then we started really looking at themselves and looking at what's happening within this connection, within this relationship. A lot of unresolved. We talked about a little bit about trauma and things like that the last few times, and so unresolved issues that are just left there. We avoid them, we minimize them, we don't think that they're a big deal or it's not a problem, but it really is. Those kinds of things. So again, that creates that constant chaos. When I mentioned poor communication, definitely number one, definitely red flag for dysfunction in a relationship and dysfunctional love. So the interaction is destructive. It is degrading or minimizing. It is blaming, maybe guilt
But
tripping.
hold on. I gotta stop you. You
Mhm.
said poor communication, and
Uh-huh.
then you went in like deep. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe we're not communicating well together. What, men are from Mars, women are from
Right.
Venus, but
Mhm,
but
mhm.
what you
Yeah.
said? Okay,
But
poor
what?
communication. We're not communicating well.
Right.
I use 5 words, use 500 words, but you,
That's not as bad. That's really not poor communication in all honesty. So, we know
okay,
from
good.
men,
Clarify. I
women,
need that clear.
yeah. So clarifying with, maybe I'm more expressive in my way that I communicate versus someone else may be a little bit more concise and to the point, those kinds of things. That doesn't necessarily mean that's poor communication. That can just be different styles of communication. And they can still work if each other knows what each other does and how to communicate and be able to understand each other. So that's really not so much poor communication. Poor communication, when you're getting into dysfunctional things and poor communication is a factor, you're looking at there is some blaming there or perhaps some defensiveness. Sometimes people are always walking around with the spirit of offense. Everything a person does is wrong. They can never do anything right. And so they're always communicating that. You never do. And you always, those absolute terms, that's poor communication.
But
Because
what if you're
everything,
always right? No.
I don't know about always. There may be a percentage of majority, maybe, a percentage of 80%, maybe, but I'm really not convinced things are always or never. Even if it's one time that is not that, never can be applied. If it's one time that is not, it cannot be applied that is always. Simple as that. I'm just saying. That will clarify some things. Well, okay, I won't say never. I'll just say, well, majority of the time. Okay, well, let's deal with that. Majority of the time, you know? You really got to get down to some language, things like that. But when you're talking about poor communication, people sometimes get into how they can point the finger, blame somebody else, have them sitting as if there's always the problem or the problem is always them versus maybe looking at themselves and taking that introspective look. So that's some signs of dysfunctional love. You got poor communication, and these things are sort of, trailing, if you will. Some additional things are trust, lack of boundaries. Like you mentioned, with unconditional love, but you don't have to have access to everything, So the lack of trust, boundary issues, there's a difference between boundaries and barriers. Difference between boundaries and
Can you
barriers.
jump on that for a little bit?
Yes. So boundaries can give some parameters, when you think about how God told Adam and Eve, in the Garden of Eden, you can have everything else, but this one tree, don't do that, So that was a boundary. That was a parameter, if you will. Then when you get into now, somewhat
And the woman messed it up, right? Okay, go ahead.
Listen here, we're not going there. We're not going there. Who was the word given to and who had the instruction? But anyway, we won't go there. Yes. Oh, could that have been a poor miscommunication or something like that? That it wasn't quite communicated. Anyway, who was with God first? Okay, I'm going to leave it right there, sir. So the lack of trust, the lack of boundaries, when you're setting up barriers, you're building walls. So now I can't even communicate with you. You can't communicate with me. There are restrictions, all of those kinds of things. So now there can't be effective communication because there's a boundary there now. Right. Mm-hmm. So there's differences with boundaries and barriers. Boundaries provide a parameter, there's ways to be flexible, those kinds of things. When there's a lack of trust, this is huge, foundational, if you will, for relationship, is trust. That ability to be able to say that I can rely on you, you can rely on me, not saying that you're going to be there 100% all the time, those kinds of things, but there has to be a degree that I can trust you and believe that you're going to look out for me, you're going to care for me, those kinds of things. When people are getting into lack of trust, it shows up potentially as suspicion, constant suspicion, questioning the person, some lying may go into that. Maybe some disregard when you're talking about a person's personal space and their needs. That's where you get into boundaries, and so being able to distinguish where there might be some challenges on the lines of trust and boundaries. And then the last one is that could be a sign, if you will, of dysfunctional love or the connections there, emotional abandonment. You hear the term of people saying, oh, they're not emotionally available. And what they're really saying is that they need something that connects to that person on an emotional level that's lacking. Whether it's an expression of an emotion, whether it is understanding another person's emotions. So there emotional abandonment. There is no connection or lack of, if you will, or challenges with that emotional connection. A person may feel like they're sacrificing their own well-being to take care of the person's emotional needs. So now it isn't this give and take, if you will, this nice kind of exchange, if you will. It's one that's pulling and pulling, perhaps draining and draining, and then the other one is taking and taking. So you
Mm.
got to look at those things, if you will, when you look at signs or potential, if you want to put out there red flags, put it out there if you want to do that, when it comes to dysfunctional love. So emotional abandonment, lack of trust or boundaries, poor communication, constant chaos, and lastly, imbalance of power.
So
So
now
just the
let me ask
tidbits.
you, if you have a family member
Hmm.
and they have that roadblock up, uh,
Hmm.
and you're trying to mend the relationship, you're trying to heal or make it better because you just know that there's issues there.
Hmm.
Uh, how might one go about working with the roadblock instead of just ignoring it and just say, "Oh well, it's a roadblock there, and I'm just done with it."
So working with, say, within a family relationship, a connection, and there's a roadblock. What perhaps might be the roadblock?
Let's say the roadblock is they don't really want to hear what you have to say. They want to get their point across, but they just don't want
Hmm.
to hear necessarily, or they don't care about yours. It's just
Hmm.
like, look, this is what I'm saying, and I want you to hear this and understand me. But in return, they're not necessarily trying to understand
Hmm.
or care about your voice.
Yeah, yeah. So it makes me think about the imbalance there. So there isn't a fairness or equal, if you will, to some degree. And equal doesn't always, equate to being exactly the
Mhm.
same, like 100 over here, 100 over there. But in general, there's some balance there. So it seems like there's a little bit off, if you will, with that balancing in expression and receiving information. So I would say start with, okay, what are our ground rules for perhaps communication? Our
Mhm.
ground rules might be that we are going to come to the table with two items that we have concerns about. We're going to hear each other out, and then the person can maybe ask one question when that person is done with their two items. That can be the ground rules. So you're setting some parameters, some boundaries, if you will, to how this engagement will occur. So then it's fair. We come to the table, we're agreeing that we each can bring two items, talk about these two items freely without being interrupted, and once they're done, they can ask maybe one follow-up question or two follow-up questions or clarify something like that. That way, there's a fair exchange. The person may not like what the two things that the person is saying. We didn't agree necessarily that we had to agree to it yet. We said basically, here's what we're going to do as our parameters for this communication. Yes, establishing those things. So that's a start.
Okay.
So then if you
And then
start with that, then
yeah,
if people violate it, then you take it another step. But at least you're starting ground.
okay. Now I was
Mhm.
thinking too when you said that too, how sometimes, and then I'm just giving something I saw,
Mhm.
they say, well, whoever's holding, the pencil,
Yes,
they got the
an
floor, they
item.
can talk, and
Mhm.
you got to listen, and then you can
Mhm.
turn it over to them.
Yep,
Oh,
absolutely. We
okay.
call the microphone pretty much exchange in our clinical work and in the office and things like that. So yeah, in families, whenever you have the stick or whatever it might be, you are the one that's speaking, and no one else can interrupt you. No one else can ask it questions or whatever the case may be until they're done. And then they pass it. That could potentially pass to the person that would be me, perhaps as the mediator or the counselor, whatever. But they also have to realize I'm abiding by that rule and holding each other accountable with that. So this person may start out with their number one, and they may say, okay, my number one issue is blah, blah, blah. And then the person, well, hold on, we agreed. And you can hold the person accountable. We agreed
Mhm.
to, so let me finish my second one, and then blah, blah, blah. So you can reiterate that when you have the
Right.
boundaries in place. Hmm.
But I also agree it shouldn't be a thing where, like say speak, you got the pencil and now I'm gonna go through like 200 things
Right.
because
But you
then
go
you're
back.
not giving someone the opportunity
Absolutely.
to respond.
Absolutely.
And
Hmm.
unless it's just one of those sessions where you're just getting everything off your chest and like, oh well.
Right.
Um,
And there
and
may
look,
be a
and
time
you
for
gotta
that.
pass the pencil though too.
Right. Pass a pencil, yeah. And there may be times where there's just this unloading to some
Okay.
degree. Um, but again, there's parameters to that. So it could be we're going to limit it to X, Y, and Z items that we're not going to discuss them. We're just getting them out on the table. So I bring my 5 items, 10 items, whatever. You bring your 5, your 10, and we're just going to put them here. And then the next step could be, okay, now let us explore how we're going to address these and try to now ticker through those things. You may see patterns that, oh, I have the same concern, you have the same concern, you know? So you're able to now navigate and kind of come together on the same page, even though your items may be all over the place in some ways. We're coming together. Okay, I see this theme, you see this theme, that kind of thing. So again,
Right.
ground rules, expectations, parameters, all of that helps. People, again, going back to expectations, you cannot expect people to read your mind about how you want things to go and how you want things to be. It's not fair. It's not fair. So,
What would you say to um, to someone who is already, writing down their responses and already, preparing while the person is speaking?
well, you can look at that too and say, if that's a distraction or problematic, you might set a parameter that I just want you to listen. Not to take any particular notes. Take mental notes if you choose to, but listen to the words that I'm saying, what I'm saying, how I'm saying it, whatever the case may be, and just take those mental notes, if you will, but not necessarily to write anything. So that could be something that you put in there potentially as this. These are one of our ground rules, if you will. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because
Right.
if
Yeah.
listening is a problem, and that's what you started this conversation with, is that the person doesn't want to hear, then you want to set things up so they are more in tune to hear versus not. So no, you can't have your iPad out. You can't have your computer up. You can't have your notes and all of those kinds of things. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing too of how you limit how many actions or things you want to bring to the table. You can't really keep up with 10. You can't. It's just the nature of how we think and process things, right?
Right.
So
Right.
to be
Right.
fair, to help them to hear, okay, I'm going to limit it to, X, Y, and Z.
Right, right. So
Mhm,
I do like that, and I think that as you're saying that either time or a number,
mhm.
and then the reason why I brought up responding and writing, because sometimes it looks like, and you may be paying attention, it just looks like you're doing something else and you're not really paying
Right,
attention, or
right.
it's one of those things in conversation where you really stop listening to me and you're already thinking your rebuttal. So that's
True.
what triggered in my mind,
Mhm.
in trying to help, people and so forth,
Yeah.
with relationship issues, is that, and I like what you're saying. I think the ground rules are important. That maybe
Mhm,
a lot of times people don't sit down and make ground rules. Say like, hey, I want to have a healthy conversation here, and
mhm,
maybe we can
mhm.
lay out some ground rules and how this can work. That we both benefit and leave benefiting from this.
Right. Now, to your point, though, that I just kind of thought about, particularly with communication, if a person's communication style is that they need to write in order to process what you're
Mhm,
saying,
mhm,
that's a little different. But that's when you really get to know who a person is and how they communicate. So for them, being able to verbally hear what you're saying is one thing, but they'll need time to process that. That's another thing. So they may not be able to have a conversation with you immediately after you express your 2 things or your 5 things or whatever those things are.
mhm,
They may need to write down some things of what you're saying and go back and process that and then be able to come back with the question, whatever case may be. So I do
mhm,
have to take a step back and help people to honor how people communicate and the different styles of communicating. Some people are not good at hearing what a person is saying. So they may
mhm,
have to write it down almost verbatim, if you will, just about. So
mhm,
there are differences there. And I think there's some further discussion that's needed in that regard, to know if that person is that type of person and their communication style is that way. That might be better. Another way to
mhm,
go around that to some degree, or to maybe help, could be we're writing down our items. So now that person has the ability to see these things on paper and then be able to formulate their follow-up question or whatever the case may be. So you have to learn that. You have to learn each other. It is not all this way or all that way, or this is the best strategy. It's really what works for this couple, this connection, this family dynamic and strategy, because it may
Hmm.
not work for another family. And that's
Right.
okay. That's
Hmm.
okay. The key is, do we have the outcome that we desire?
Right. 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 And
Hmm.
that's one thing that I was going to say too. And actually, I'm starting to wonder if I need to write some of these questions down. I was like, man, what was I going to say? But I think that oh man, I'm having a senior moment.
It's okay.
Oh, the argument. Yeah, yeah. It's like
Mhm.
that that there's no winners in the argument,
Mm,
because if we find
good
ourselves arguing,
to win.
I'm not trying to see that, you win, I win, we both leave with an understanding. I'm just trying to get a win.
Mm,
And I,
mm,
I think as you're pointing
good.
out and bringing these boundaries, I think it is great if we can respect how, our family member, our loved one, our friend, our best friend,
Hmm.
whatever,
Hmm.
this is how communication is effective for you, or this is how listening works for you, and that
Hmm.
we begin to almost move in a higher um, EQ,
Hmm.
emotional, understanding about each other,
Hmm.
and that
Hmm.
I can respect that, because as you point out too, in setting the ground rules, this may be a bad time. Maybe it's
Absolutely.
at the end of a long day, and
Hmm.
I don't have the energy, the bandwidth, whatever, to go into this, or maybe
Hmm.
it was after something heated, and I need a moment,
Hmm.
to get my cool. And we need to try to
Absolutely.
find a way to respect. But I think the big picture is, if you're trying to work with this, then we're moving in the right direction.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's hard too, and a little challenging when it comes to the time frame of when to do something, because some people will argue and say, well, I don't want to delay and push it off. I get that. I do. But a
Mm.
pause for maybe an hour or two, um, it's okay. We're not going to lose our stride here. It's probably going to be more healthier, those kinds of things. Yeah, saying we're going to take care of it in a week from now, that's problematic potentially. So your time frame really to something to agree upon. Some things may be just off limits. Like, okay, it's off limits to have any of these conversations at the end of the evening. I don't know. It may be
Mhm.
off limits that we have these discussions when the kids are away. I don't know what those other things are, but those additional things to think about that may be minor, or it seems like, but really they're quite helpful in establishing what will be helpful in this communication, in this interaction. So, it could be this is our time to do it and it's X, Y, and Z time. But yeah. So
All
thank
right,
you for that.
Evangelist. I'm sorry.
Lisa.
I'm looking in the I'm
Lisa.
looking in the comments. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
So
sorry.
look, this is this is from Tech
Each other.
Academy. I think it's my wife. It's from Tech
I
Academy,
think so.
and it said, "Evangelist, you are brilliant and thoughtful." So I started searching through to see, did I get, Pastor, you're brilliant, you're
Oh, here we go.
thoughtful, and
Oh God.
I can't find that one in there yet. So
Oh, I can't. I
I
can't.
was like,
Let's
that
not
that that
have
looked like my wife, but it says Tech Academy, so that may not be her.
that may not
Maybe
be
I'm.
her. Let's just pretend it's not her. Let's just pretend it's not her. I'm not
All
trying to
right.
have a mediation right here live. Is this our demonstration?
Right.
Is this our role play you're talking about?
Right, right.
Oh.
All right. All right. So, Vangelis Hill, I need you to
Yes.
get out your notepad and pencil
Yes.
for a minute. I'm gonna go into marriage for a little bit. I want you to
Okay.
take some notes. So you ready? All right. All right. So in marriage, love is a role, not a dinner roll. ROLE, a role, not a transaction. So in marriage, we got to keep the mindset that love is a role, not a transaction. Ephesians 5:25, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church. Ephesians 5:22, wives, submit, as to the Lord. So, submit to your husband as to the Lord. So these commands are not conditional on the other person's performance. It's important for us to understand in marriage. In marriage, it's not 50-50. It's one day could be 80, another day, 80-20, and so on. Ideally, everybody's putting in, everybody's working hard and so forth. But the reality is it's not 50-50. And we got to remember it's not transactional. These commands are not based upon the performance, because then now we're talking about conditions, conditional love. If you do this for me, then I could do this for you. That's not what God called love in marriage to be like, the agape love. When we look at love in the Bible, 1 Corinthians 13, and it begins to show all the things that love is. Love is about charity. Love is about giving. And too many people make the mistake when they think about marriage, when they think about love, is they start thinking about what I'm going to get. But when you decide to get married, that means you found a person that you want to do for. I want to give, I want to pour into, I want to bless, I want to do for them in their life. And you're not just thinking like, oh, look at all the stuff I'm going to get. Our obedience to God is not dependent on reciprocity from people. You are not loving your spouse because they deserve it. Can I get an amen? I need you to understand you are not loving your spouse because they deserve it. Christ died on the cross not because we deserved it, but because he loved us. You are loving your spouse because God called you to reflect him. That means you remain loving even when collaboration is weak. You remain faithful even when effort feels uneven. So now, how do we love like this? How do we love unconditionally without feeling cheated? So I want to bring up, let me see. As I say, I want to bring up, let me make sure I put this one. Oh, yeah, I did. All right. Colossians chapter 3. Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. All right, we're going to get a little help with this. Whatever you do, work
With what?
at it with all your heart as
Mhm.
working for the Lord and not for human masters. So when we see that scripture, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord. And this is one reason why I say, in church, there's no volunteers. We talk about when we do it as unto the Lord, not for human masters, not for, the approval of people. So we love because we're doing what God asked us to do.
Mhm.
But when love feels unreturned,
Then what?
we gotta try to handle that, because I feel like I'm doing all the loving and you not.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm not getting a return back. So naturally, I feel cheated.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's like going through the drive-through and I gave you $7.85. I pull up to the next window and they say, we got nothing for you. Woo!
Right. Mm.
So how
So
would you
then are you not
possibly, yeah, go ahead.
so even in that example, so is the person just supposed to walk away with that's the result or that's the outcome? Think about it. I'm just saying, like, is
Right.
that the final answer, if you will? Is there not an opportunity to ask some questions and say, well, this wasn't what I thought I should have gotten. I should have received X, Y, and Z, whatever that is, you know? So
Well, I'm gonna
just
say
wondering.
this. We go to your parameters, the communication, and everything that you were talking about. And in a relationship, yes, you could bring up your concerns, you could bring up your
Mhm,
desires, because we go back to um, expectations that are
mhm,
not communicated. So yes,
mhm,
you want to communicate. You know, this is what I like. This is what I want. This is what I need. You know, stuff like
mhm,
that.
mhm.
But here's the problem. How long do you ask somebody to do what they don't want to do? So
Yeah.
marriage is a covenant, it's an agreement, it's a contract. You know, in the natural man, we say for richer, for poor,
Mhm,
for good
mhm.
times and bad times. You know, sickness and health. So we paint the picture as unconditional, and we have to learn how to live that out. So like a lot of times, when people go to work, they work at a job and they go there and they may not love and enjoy everything, but they keep
Mhm,
going.
mhm.
They want the paycheck.
True, true.
Now you can look for another job, but what happens when you can't find nothing else? You still stay at that job because you have things that you have to still take care of and you have to do. So when we look at a relationship now and we're talking about an agreement we made before God, you know,
Mhm,
what God put together, let no man put asunder. You know, we're not supposed to break this up. The other point is the marriage is an example of the relationship between Christ and the church.
mhm,
In the Old Testament, Jesus said, God says, I'm married to the backslider.
mhm,
So Israel messing up, but I'm not divorcing them. I'm
mhm,
not leaving. I'm married to the backslider. Now, when we
mhm,
come back to marriage, what I'm saying is, yes, you should work to make the marriage, you know, work, to make it good. You should communicate. If you need to, go to counseling. But when I'm talking about the commitment and the stick to itness, when you
mhm,
find yourself in a place, you got to also stop and look and say, who am I doing this for? My spouse or my Savior? That we made a commitment. And sometimes you find, and I want to maybe look also at seasons. There may be a season
mhm,
when things are not going well for that person. You know, maybe they're going through stuff too, so they're not being the best spouse, maybe because they're going through. It could be
mhm,
major issues and things going. Now, also let me say this: I'm not saying this is right that
mhm,
the spouse, but this is life. You know, maybe they're
mhm,
going through
mhm,
issues with the job. Maybe they're dealing with taking care of a loved one who's sick. Maybe they're dealing with the loss of someone. Maybe they're dealing with some insecurities, life problems, midlife crisis, menopause. I mean, you name it.
mhm,
Life
mhm.
happens.
Right.
We have to deal with a lot of things, and
Mhm,
maybe I
mhm,
can't always be on or always be my best, but I show you, my vulnerable side, my weakness, who I
mhm,
am, and I'm not the greatest right now.
mhm, mhm,
And what I'm saying is, because we don't look and push toward divorce. What I'm
mhm,
saying is, so how do I love when love feels unreturned? So
mhm,
I communicated, I talk, but I still feel it's unreturned. Now, here's another thing. When I say to you, this is what I feel,
mhm.
does that always mean that is
That is
factual?
accurate. Right.
Right.
May not be. Mhm,
This is what I feel.
mhm,
So maybe the person is doing something that they feel
mhm,
is loving toward me, but I don't feel is loving.
mhm, mhm.
So,
Absolutely.
you made me breakfast, but I'm thinking no big deal.
Mhm,
Like that ain't really showing me nothing.
mhm,
So That's a problem we have in marriages, because you should be grateful for whatever. It's just like
Mm,
your kid gives you a gift for Christmas and they say, hey, Dad, I got you,
the thought.
a wrench, and you got 200 wrenches in the garage. You
Right.
should.
Oh, your sound went out. Can you still hear me? Hear me? I can't hear you.
What about now? What about now? Can you hear me
Yes.
now?
Yes.
All right. Ooh, I had a backup. I had some batteries over here on the side. Uh, So, Evangelist, I thought you was gonna pick it up for me. No, I was
So,
in a row, and then the enemy tried to say, "No, let's stop this." No, but
well, I want to ask kind of a
go ahead.
question when you mentioned about the scenario where, okay, you may receive a person like a child, et cetera, or even a person may do it where they're just giving you the same old, if you will. The wrench. Okay, you have 1,000 of them. You have whatever, a million kind of deal. Okay, one, have you communicated that, okay, I have 100 of those, or you're just assuming that they know that? I'm just saying. And then two, when you think about expectations and what you need and want and all those kinds of things, you might be able to express, well, I would prefer, or here's my list, or can we have the desired gift list or something like that. So that helps to alleviate that issue of, oh, I'm getting the same old thing, if you will, and that's a problem. But if we don't communicate that, but the other piece underlying that, beneath it, is that does the person recognize that this is this person's way to express my love, my concern, my appreciation for you? Sometimes that's missed.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that person feels invalidated, doesn't feel appreciated. You didn't receive my gift, so now you don't receive me, because they don't separate it. You didn't like that gift, so you must don't
Right.
like me anymore. You
Right.
don't love me anymore. And I'm not saying it is accurate, but that is a perception a person may have in their head, and then they'll act accordingly. So having a discussion about, okay, I have so many of these, I don't need another one, whatever the case may be. But I'm just saying, again, that communication and expectations, your needs, your wants, because I
So let
can't
me
tell
say
you
this.
how many people in a
Mm-hmm.
marital relationship, one will come and say, I've done all these things.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Mm-hmm.
given blah, blah, blah. That tells you I love you. That tells you I care. That tells you I appreciate you. And the other party is saying, I want to hear you say it.
Right. 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 Right.
So,
So,
yeah.
but let me say
Hmm.
this. So, have you heard of Gary Chapman's 5 love
Yes.
languages and
The
so
five
forth?
languages. Yep.
So let me say this.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at. I think I'm gonna write a book. I think I'm gonna write a book. I'm thinking of write a
Yes.
book at how he ruined relationships.
Mhm. I hear you. I understand. I think I
So
go where you're
what I'm
going. Go
saying is
ahead.
this. I think
Hmm.
the book is educational for
Hmm.
self-awareness of what I like.
Yes.
But
Yes.
as far as a relationship goes, it messes us up because we're thinking I'm not getting what I need and what I want.
Yep.
But I asked again, who am I doing this for? My spouse or my savior? Freedom comes when obedience is offered to God and not demanded by people.
Get it.
So if I'm
Hmm.
demanding this obedience from people, I'm not going to be free. I have to be obedient to God. What did God call me to do? It's almost like you on a team and somebody's out of assignment and you could try to help them, but I first got to make sure I take care of my assignment. What's my
Hmm.
assignment?
Hmm.
How am I supposed to be loving? How am
Hmm.
I supposed to be giving? Because once again, love is charity, is what I'm giving. And
Hmm.
at the end of the day, my accountability to God is for what I did. So if I
Hmm.
constantly look and say, God, no, but look at them, look at
Hmm.
them, look at what you're doing, look at what you're doing, look at what
Hmm.
you're doing, then I'm not focusing on charity on my giving. So
Hmm.
love is without keeping score.
Yes, it is.
1 Corinthians 13:5. Love keeps
Yep.
no record of
No
wrongdoing.
record. Absolutely.
Love is not keeping score. Keeping score turns love into labor. It's a
Hmm.
labor now.
That's good.
Sure.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
The moment love becomes a ledger, it's in the ledger,
Yep.
joy disappears. Joy disappears. I gotta change my mindset, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
God wants to do with us. Change our mindset about love,
Mm-hmm.
about giving,
Mm-hmm.
about it. The Lord loves a cheerful giver. That we could cheerfully give love and not feel cheated. When Jesus died on the
Mm-hmm.
cross, did he feel cheated? I
He
mean,
probably
because
does.
it seemed like he was, but he wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, Galatians 6:9 says, be not weary in well doing.
Mm.
God never promised immediate results. God never promised immediate results, but he promised a divine reward. Faithfulness is our responsibility.
Mm.
It's our responsibility. So when we look at this, boundaries, yes, they're important.
Mm-hmm.
Unconditional love requires boundaries to remain healthy. Guard your heart. If your brother sins, go and tell him his fault. So, we talked about being able to look at it, confronting it with grace, though,
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
grace, setting limits with wisdom, and we gotta refuse bitterness, because that's the key. This is how you don't feel cheated, when you don't allow it to turn into bitterness.
Yeah.
So boundaries are not punishment; they're protection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love you, but this behavior, I don't enjoy. I'm committed to us, but we need help, honey. This is our first going. I'm staying
Right.
faithful. But I'm not staying silent. I still want to talk about this and have a
Right.
voice. And we
Mm-hmm.
see Jesus as the model. He loved.
Mm-hmm.
Who did Jesus love? He loved people who misunderstood him.
Mm-hmm.
He served people who abandoned him,
Mm-hmm.
and he remained obedient when affection was absent. Isaiah says he was despised and rejected. He remained obedient even when affection was absent. So, we can say, I get no affection from my spouse, but, God looking like, okay. So you're never cheated when your obedience is counted by God. The woman who put the two mites in and so forth, the mite in, and he said she gave more than them all. There was no cheating going on, because it was counted by God. So, I just want to say we got to examine in our outlook and our view of things. Now, once again, let me make this clear, Evangelist. Now, you help me out. Am I saying don't communicate and don't try to fix what you're feeling? And I want to stress that, because, as you said, I think it's very important. When you talk to relationship, you talk to people, at times we do see it different. I see this, you see this, I feel this, I feel that. That's
Absolutely.
no big deal to me. But that's a big deal to you.
Right.
But then this is a big deal to me, but it's no big deal to you. Because I've seen relationships, I'll say unhealthy communication, curse each other out like what? But some people can do that and not care. That's Absolutely. The difference. I don't care what you call me, what you say, how you treat me. Now, I'm not saying that in real life. I'm just and because maybe my mama used to curse me out. You know what I'm saying? So like now to me, it's not a sensitive thing. It's like, oh, she just bugging, she tripping. But then somebody else whose mother never cussed them out, now you cussing them out. They're like, whoa.
Right. Right. But then you have to, that's where that communication of, okay, it's not a big deal for me. But if a person says, well, that's not what I appreciate. I don't appreciate having, curse words at me or called out my name, whatever the case may be. So having that communication. And going back to what you mentioned about God and unconditional love, and he has that for us, but there are also consequences when we don't line up with the expectations of this committed relationship with him. So he's going to have, married to the backslider, married to the sinner, all of that, but there are going to be consequences when there's not an alignment, and so the consequences could be positive, they could be negative, so you determine that, in some ways, by your obedience and what you're doing and what you're not doing. So even though his love may be unconditional, we have to think about, where do we now we need to adhere to what he's saying. following his commandments, following what's expected for this covenant relationship. That's why we can't do any and everything we want to do.
Right,
His love
right.
may not go away, but there's going to be some
Mhm,
benefits that are going to be cut off.
mhm, mhm.
There's some
So let me
outcomes that we're going to have. There's punishment potential. You know what I'm saying? When I'm saying punishment,
right.
an outcome for something that's not done right or
Yes.
whatever.
So let me say this. We gonna have to wrap up because I'm
Hmm.
also getting distracted. My wife is cooking and it smells fabulous right now.
Good.
But let me say this.
Hmm.
One example we look at is when the Bible talks about a woman and a husband who were unsaved, and then
Hmm.
now the woman gets saved. And
Hmm.
he says, if the man will stay, then stay in the relationship.
Hmm.
And I just want to stress this unconditional love because to me, our divorce rate is too high. Too many
It is.
marriages,
Yeah.
people have got out because it was not
Hmm.
convenient,
Hmm.
didn't work
Hmm.
right away and all this kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
this covenant, this agreement is about looking to stick to it. And once again, I'm not talking about somebody hitting you upside your head, you feel your life is
Hmm.
in danger, so forth. Get out, get out, get out,
Hmm.
get out. But going back to the unconditional love is obedience and not self-betrayal. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I can't be me. I'm not being me, and I'm not being true to
Hmm.
myself if I
Hmm.
change the way I behave. Well, let me
Yeah.
say this: when you get married, you're gonna die. Self has to
Absolutely.
die. So the
Absolutely.
man has to die, the woman has to die. Just like when we look at, coming to Jesus, he said, I lay
That's
down my
it.
life, I die for you. You got to give up your life.
That's
So
right.
unconditional love is about giving up our life. Um,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
the,
Agree.
the story of the story of the Magi Christmas. It's a story about a man. I'm going to do real brief for everybody's here. Give me a second. A man, he loved his watch. He had a beautiful watch, but what was it? The band got messed up and so forth. His wife had long, beautiful hair, and he decides for Christmas he wants to get her something, this great clip that was going to go in her hair. It was costly, it was expensive. She
Hmm.
decides, I'm going to cut my hair and buy him something for his watch because his watch is messed up. So she buys him a beautiful gold chain to attach the watch to. So they both gave up something that was prized to them to give to the other person. So now when they come to Christmas, he's got this, great clip and stuff for her hair, and she ain't got no hair. She goes and gets him this great thing for his watch, and he don't have no watch. But the beauty of it is that they were willing to give of what was theirs in
Yeah.
order to give something to the other. It wasn't for something in return. So unconditional love is obedience, not self-betrayal.
Hmm.
There's parts of you that have to die. We have selfishness, we have greed, we have
Yes.
lust, things that are in us that
Mm-hmm.
has to die because we got to go back to giving, loving, charity.
Mm-hmm.
So love now from a calling, not convenience.
Yes, that's good.
I have a calling.
Hmm.
Now you guard your heart while giving it, and you leave the outcome in God's hand.
Hmm.
Christ-like love is costly, but it's never wasted.
That's
Never
good.
wasted. It's
Hmm.
costly, but it's never wasted. So, all right. I thank you, Evangelist
Hmm.
Hill. Anything you want to say before we close out? I was trying to give you some notes to take on that.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And I can go back and do the replay as well. But to your point, the selfishness and being selfless, we should be able to do that in our single relationships. So that's my single end point that I would like to make, is that when you work through that process as an individual, it becomes a little bit, I'm not saying totally 100% easier, but
A
then you're
little.
able to do it better in a committed relationship because that adjustment, you've already started to work through that. If you can't now see yourself or see others and besides yourself, those kinds of things. If you don't do it in your single life, it is going to not be a part of your marriage life. You're not going to
Mm.
imagine you just change over. You know what I'm saying? So work that process, do what you need to do on the single side. That's my word for the singles.
All right. All
Do
right. I
your
like
work. Do your work like I'm trying to do. God help me.
I am
Mhm.
trying.
Oh,
I
someone
want
told my Music
Go
ministry
ahead.
for NER,
Oh yes, yes. I told
February
Minister
7th.
Toby. Remind me. Yes, 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 yes. Look, is that all she put in there? Um, I think there's still time for you to. Well, actually, I'm gonna put this flyer up. That's where I'm gonna go. Let me see if it's the right one. Yes, it is. The NERBA, the NERCWA. We're gonna be at River of Life
Excellent.
Church in Euclid, Ohio. Euclid in the house. So our choir singing. We opened it up to the whole groups, because we have some different music groups and so forth. We have some people that sing and certain things here and there. So men, women, brothers, kids, children, whoever, call your mama, whoever, come out and be a part of our choir. We want you to come join us. And we're supposed to be also doing some outreach. So fast day, February 3rd. So let's not forget the fast. And we're going to look to serve food and donate coats and clothes and all that kind of stuff. So that is February 4th from 5 to 6 at Luther Metropolitan. And at February 5th, we're going to the city mission as well. So if you want to be part of that outreach, that's out there for you also. The other thing I want to throw out there too is our NERCEA. We're bringing it back. Christian Ed had been a little dormant, but we're bringing it back, and we're going to be at Ebenezer Assembly of Christ, our church in Florida Avenue, and that one is a little bit down the road. That's March 7th. We want you to come out for that and be a part of that wonderful service. And I got one more flyer I'm gonna throw on. It's not. I got to get the website when I get it on there, so you have to excuse me for that. But I wanted to just launch it out and get some people thinking about it. But before I get to that, the rebound, man, they're gonna have interactive competitions. We're gonna have the playbook going on for the superintendents. We're gonna have your favorite basketball attire. You get to wear it. We got some game snacks that's going to happen and all that's going on. Last thing I want to throw out there is our teen camp. Our teen camp is happening again. It's been a while since we've done it. That's happening again, and that's going to be February. No, not February. Excuse me. That's July. July 5th, after the 4th of July. July 5th through the 8th. Hollow Hill Campground. We want you to come out for that and be a part of teen camp. We're going to get, you see it says John Doe and website.com. Yeah, I got to get that part, but I wanted to launch it out and let people know before we hit that time or got there too late. So just thinking about it. $100 early bird registration. So if you want your kids 7th grade to 12th grade to come and be a part of that, come on out and register for that. It's going to be wonderful for our teens. Wonderful time. All right. So thank you for being here today with Healing Family and Marriage Wounds. We hope we're helping you with discussions with your family, with your friends, with your loved ones and so forth, that these relationships are stronger. What happened to, oh, there we go. Why is my graphic? There we go.